whatever you're doing, you should be developing a skill. You shouldn't just be doing something for the sake of making money.
Correct.
That's the most important thing I think I learned this year is that I need to have a skill. What actually is a skill? A skill means I'm competent. I can do something. Mm-hmm. I can rely on myself to do something.
There you go. That's a bar.
It's easy to get on this financial freedom, the whole journey. It's easy to get caught up with just making money, not realizing it's like, dude, do you have a skill?
This is serious.
Like, are you able to rely on yourself to make money every day in any type of market conditions?
Yep.
You're listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. It's about time that we invest more in our financial literacy and work towards building generational wealth. If you think you're ready to do the same, then you've come to the right place. Alex, Marlon, y'all ready? Let's get this bread.
What's good, everybody? It's Alex Kamui here. We are back with episode 147 of the Money Monopolizers podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Marlon Walls. Marlon, how you doing today, bro?
I'm doing good, man. First of all, I think every time we start these episodes, I always when I go back and listen to them, I always hear a little bit of me laughing in the very beginning. I'm like, we always having some type of joke right before we get started. But yeah. Everything's going really well though, man. How's the trip out here overall?
That was good, man. We're in Houston right now, so alternating locations for those that know, they know.
Facts.
But yeah. I'll be out here for the weekend, so it'll be cool. I always enjoy coming out here. I'll be out there alone, so.
Right. And it's crazy that we can just staying consistent with this, going back and forth every other week has been something that I think a lot of people, like you said, if you know, you know, but that's definitely how we just been running it for the past dang near a year now, to be honest.
Yeah. It's since the in-person. Actually, it was September was our first in-person episode.
Was it
not
August or
first in person, but the first? No, it was September when we released episode 100.
Yep. So dang, that's crazy. So it's been a whole year since we've been doing in-person episodes and
traveling.
Yep, and it takes some commitment. I think I've enjoyed it though, because I think a lot of growth, and I learned the benefits of doing the in-person versus doing virtual, just because you can really. Especially when we have on guests, I think that's probably one of the biggest benefits.
I wouldn't even if we had to do virtual, it's like, yo, I'm not even doing it. All right, you got it. You could do that one without me. It's just not the same.
Yeah, it's just not a different feel to it. And so that's why I said I'm glad that we're able to keep on pushing them out and keep on doing them, because they definitely are I think I've said that before. They're definitely therapeutic. This is time to come unwind all your thoughts.
Like therapy.
And I've learned actually that I was talking to one of our mechanics that works on our cars. Yeah. And dude's only 28 years old, and his mind is definitely there as far as just really driven. He's running the whole operation. I noticed a lot of things about him is he is the show though. A lot of things revolve around him being there and actually making things happen. He's answering phone calls, he's meeting up with guests when they show up into the offices. Yeah. And he's and he does have employees too, but he still does a lot of the work. And so me and him had an hour conversation literally yesterday. And the whole point of it is that some people have that mentality to grow, but at the same time well, not the mentality to grow. Some people had that mentality to as an entrepreneur, to really be successful, but at the same time, they need to have a mentality of offloading themselves. Or I kind of forgot what led me to that, because we were just saying we
was just talking about doing the in-person versus
I know. But it made me think about something when you said that.
I don't know what I said.
Because I was talking to him yesterday, and basically he had my mindset in regards to not necessarily being the person that's doing all the in the business work, and kind of just liberating himself from being the one that's doing everything inside the business. I kind of went on a tangent with that, because I really don't remember, because it said something. I had a point with that, but
yeah, I feel like you were, because
it was really going to be a good point too. But I'm mad I forgot it.
I don't know what I said. But nah, it is what it is. Maybe you'll get it in a few minutes.
I'll be thinking about it now. But otherwise, everything is going good though. Overall,
I was just going to ask you, how's everything going?
Everything's going good. The business, I know we are knocking on the door of greatness. I don't know when think I might have said it last time, but this past week has been crazy.
Yeah.
Because my whole goal was to finish up doing our bookkeeping. So for anybody who doesn't know, we're in the rental car business. Me and my dad, we've been doing it for 2 years. And we are at the point now where we're going to be able to get financing from different lenders. But the main requirement is that you have 2 years of financial statements. So financial statements are like your income statement and your balance sheet. Those are key terms that lenders are looking for in order to actually get funding. We did not have those because we weren't using like a professional accountant or anything. I was just doing my personal bookkeeping. Right. But if you're looking to obtain funding from different lenders, you have to have professionally done books that's backed by an accountant that's been reconciled and things like that. Really? So that's where we are now because the past couple months, I was working with another bookkeeper. They were trash, to be honest. Like,
so do they go and like get your bank statements and like all that? And
they pull every single bank statement that you have for every account that you open. So they tell funny thing, they tell me that, well, bro, why you have so many accounts open?
Yeah.
So we do profit first, and we have extra accounts because of our partners and stuff too.
Oh yeah.
So they like, yo, you have a lot of accounts because you have to reconcile every single account for every month.
Like balance them.
Yes. And so that's they're not used to seeing that. They're used to seeing the check-ins and the savings, I guess, for most people.
See, I don't. That's interesting though, because like even in my business, I don't know. I don't even want to do all that, bro. Like it's just like I know that's probably if there was one thing in my business that I know is like subpar. Well, I would say subpar to like a high end business standard. It would be the books or the accounting. Yeah. Not to say it's trash. Like I said, I do my own balancing for the most part. Not balancing. I do my own tracking for the most part. So it's like, and it's not much. It's like the dollar amount might be high, but the expenses are pretty consistent as far as what they are. So I feel like that part is like, I don't know, because I don't know. It's just something about letting people see all into my accounts and stuff. It's just something about that. I know that's dumb as an entrepreneur.
I was the exact same way because when I was starting, before we wanted to go to lenders, I was doing all of that. Yeah. Like I had the book. So I told every bookkeeper I work with, I said, we have every single line item documented. Like there's no expense that's been missed. There's no piece of income that's been missed. Everything has been documented. The problem is that I'm not a professional. So I don't necessarily know the little intricacies and details about what the lenders are looking for. So when they look for an income statement and balance sheet, they want to, like for us with the rental car business, as a perfect example, they want to see our cars. They want to see like each one of our cars, how much has been paid on each one of them and how much have they been depreciating since then, like calculating for depreciation, calculating for principal and interest for the payments, not just the payment itself. All of those things, I didn't even have that. Yeah. And so that's what the bookkeepers were for, to like let me know that these are things that are necessary. And like I said, that's because we're trying to take the next step. Yeah. And so in order to take that next step, you have to like do the extra effort, or you have to do things that you may not have done before in the past. So for me, doing spreadsheet bookkeeping, that's now a thing of the past because you got to take the next step. But like I said, we use two different bookkeepers. The first one, we started working with them back in like late June, and they worked with us all through July, and then August. They were terrible though, because they did 6 months of books for us, and they pretty much 6 months was pretty much from January of this year through June. Yeah. But at the same time, they act like 2020 and 2021 didn't exist. Yeah. And so they kind of like did some hand waving and voodoo magic or whatever to balance 2022 to where it looked like it was current. So if I took those to my lender, they're looking for 2 years worth of financial statements, not just 6 months. So it was useless anyway. So
how much did you have to pay them?
To be honest, I haven't paid them yet. Oh, they charged $5,000 for that.
Oh heck no! And they didn't do it right.
No, and I undid everything. So that's why I said this entire past week, that's literally all I was doing was 2020, 2021 books, like getting them all balanced out and then undoing what they did. Yeah. So I'm like, so should I send y'all a bill back? Like we can play the bill tag game at this point. So like that's kind of where I'm at. Let it hear in the comment section. What would y'all do in that situation? Because that one really irked me, because we've spent a month and a half waiting on them to finish it. Yeah. And we end up having to go back and just redo everything that they did. Right. No, I bet that was probably very frustrating. And that's like, I mean, like you said, it's something you got to do. And that's something, like I said, I think about that a lot too, because, if you want to sell your business, especially, that's very important to have good, like, because that's literally like how people are going to know what your business is actually doing. Mm-hmm. Like you can say, yeah, I made this much in revenue or whatever, and you can show like all this, but if there's not professional book, because it's like, you got to think
Same way when we were analyzing those apartment deals, the freaking P&Ls and income statements and rent rolls and all that we had to.
Rent roll is a common term too. If you don't have it, they like, you crazy or something?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's like all that needs to be updated and current to that, at least for that point in time, you know, if you're trying to sell it. And it's just like, dang, I really don't want to do all that.
Yes. Oh my God. So that was a big part of me that was like debating, like, do I stay with this business at this point? But at the same time, I had to really think about it. Every business that we're in is going to experience this at some point. Like that is part of running a business, is that to get to that next level, you are going to have to do that type of stuff. Like if you're inspired to make this, to get it out of the elementary stage of where you may be able to like run it on your own and like have somebody else running the operation, or be able to get access to a large amount of financing, you have to do those type of things. Like even when we actually went to go look at different lots and locations, and the lease. So we were trying to get a lease from a company, and they said that they just want to see 2 years of financial statements. Wow. Like it was a normal request too. Yeah. He didn't say like, you got your 2 years worth. He's like, yeah, we just need to see 2 years of financial statements. And
it's like, oh yeah, you should have that.
So it's like a normal thing for large businesses. Yeah. And so if you want to be a larger business that's actually growing and having its own lot and location, having a fleet size of 50 to 100 cars, that's what's required. And that's why I'm very grateful to have gone on this journey and setting that initial goal in the beginning of the year. Because setting the goal of saying 100 cars and trying to hit a certain income goal, that kind of set the precedence for everything that we're doing right now. Because having that goal in mind every single day is kind of what's been driving me to figure out how to get there. Yeah. And originally, I think I was going to just go like the partnership route, but I said, I really want to leverage our business. And now I'm learning every single day, like, what does it take to really leverage that business to get it to where you can get those that size of a fleet inside the business.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's going to take, because I mean, any business, like you said, is going to require that. I think at that point, if that's not something you want to do, then you have to not to be in a business. You have to do something else. And, you know, you just got to be, I mean, for the most part, that's not necessarily a problem, because at the end of the day, it's not like you have to do it yourself. You just have to hire somebody to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest concern becomes like, dang, okay, am I going to qualify? Or is it like, is my stuff going to look good? Or is it going to be like, is it going to come out the way that they want it to come out? Mm-hmm. Like, that's like, yo, that's just what it is. I mean, but it's unavoidable.
If you're talking on that, there's a whole story on that one too, because that's definitely a fear that you can have, is that, or like that's something you can be concerned with. It's like, once I actually do this thing the right way, it's going to reveal a lot about am I doing stuff right or am I doing it wrong?
And I think that's the thing too about it too. It makes you look at like, okay, is my business actually is it healthy? Yeah. Or is it like, is it trash?
It's like a mirror that's going to shine on you.
It's an evaluation, really. Yeah. And that's really what it is. It's like if you go to a doctor, you get a physical or a checkup. It's the same thing. It's like, yeah, based on what you've been doing, this is where you are right now. Right.
So it can be painful just to like come to realization like, oh, so we really suck. It could be like that.
Thinking you was doing good.
Right. But I think but like I said, at the end of the day, it's important. If your goal is truly to get to that level of doing great in the business, I think it's going to be a reality check to see like how much more you're willing to put in to get to the level you say you want to get it to. Right. Because once it reveals to you where you're at, you have two choices. You can either choose to accept it or I guess be deterred by it and just keep on doing what you've been doing and just say, I'm not going to even look at books again. Or you can say, now I know where the problems are, and now I can proceed from there. I can improve on those particular areas.
Yeah. No, that's real. Yeah, that's real.
And how everything's been for you overall?
It's been good. I think. I mean, it's crazy that it's September. I think, I said that. We talked about that last episode, but we didn't actually record last episode in September. Right. And like we're in the last quarter of the year now. And it's like, man, time to really just be moving. And it's crazy to think that, I mean, we're already about to be in a new year. And well, not about to be, but you know, it's
you're 30 already.
Yeah, it's going to be here quick. So it's like, because I was thinking the other day, I was like, dang, I've been out of my job for over 2 years now. And it was just like, because I was talking to somebody and they had asked me about it, and I was like, yeah, I haven't worked in a long time. And it was, I just was like, it's like, it wouldn't even seem normal.
How about that? Could you imagine going back right now?
No, it wouldn't even seem normal to like go to a job. I mean, it's not that it would feel like abnormal because I did it for, 2.5 years. But it's crazy. I'm almost been at a job as long as I've been out of the job. Or I've been out as long, I've been almost out as long as I have been in since the time of graduate. Oh, even if you want to count before graduating internship, but like from graduating college till 2020, that was 2018, 2019. Yeah, 2.5 years. So 2020, half of 2020, yeah, this will be at the end of this year, it'll be 2.5 years. So it'll be crazy. And so I don't know, just that mentality of like going to a job is very, I can't, because that's a certain mindset you got to be in. It's just like something I can't just hop into. Even before college, it was easier to do it transitioning from college to that because it's like you was already anticipating it. So it was like, okay, I know this is something I'm gonna have to do. But like now when you go from entrepreneurship thinking like this is what you're going to do and then to try to say you're going to go back to a job, nah, I couldn't. I mean, if I had to, it would suck, but I would if I had to. But
I've often been thinking like over the past couple of weeks, just like the difference in mentality you have to have as an employee versus working a job. Like even as an example for today, I woke up this morning and my mentality was, let me make sure the entire business is running smoothly.
Yeah.
There was a lot of little nicks and knacks that were like missing. And I'm just like, that has to be addressed. And I'm already thinking what part of the system wasn't correct for it to get to this point to where we have to like go back and do some cleanup and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty much thinking on a higher level in general. And that like knowing that mentality, I almost feel like I'm like a superhuman some days. Like you have to be Superman in the business. And like really a lot of entrepreneurs may be like that in general because they are typically doing the work of many people, especially in the beginning. Like you as one person need to be replaced by like 5 or 10 different people to be able to execute what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so like the employee mentality, like I wonder how good we would fit in that position or for how long
to go back.
Yes. Like if we're going back, like do we dwarf back into the level or do we bring our mentality into that level?
You know what's interesting about that? Because I'd be thinking like, if I had to go back to a job, what would I put on my resume?
Yes, that's huge.
to like, because obviously I haven't been doing engineering.
Correct.
Over the last 2.5 years last 2 years since I've been out of my job. So it's like, I'm not going to say I was doing that because obviously I don't have 5 years.
Been doing it the past couple of years.
Yeah. So say I would put on their skills that show that I have ability to do things like sales.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because obviously, I built a business, over $500,000 in under 2 years. That was a sales business. Mm-hmm. I created sales scripts. I created sales systems. I created marketing systems. I trained people to follow systems and show them how to do that. And all of that was a system I created that led to over $500,000 of sales. So to me, I look at that as like, that's a skill that would be valuable to another employer, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe not in engineering or technical sense, but that's why I always told you, I was like, if I had to go back to a job, it would be to sales. Because it's like, that is something that translates directly over. It's like, I know sales because, I've developed sales systems and I'm not saying I know, like, I'm like an expert at sales. I know enough to do $500,000 in sales. So it's like, I know something. So it's like, obviously it works to some degree and, that level to that extent, yeah, I could do that. But like when it comes to like now, because I guess just for the sake of the conversation, if I was going to go back to a job, what would an employer say about like the skills that I have in that sense? Or like, would they look at it as like, this person might be someone that might leave again just because
I always thought about that too.
They're obviously prone to like doing their own thing, starting their own thing. So it's like, I don't know. I guess it would probably just depend on that specific employer or whatever. But that's always something I think about because it's, well, not always, but it's like a thought that I've had because it's like, the only reason I had that thought is because it's like, if I had to say what skills have I developed over the last 2 years, what would you say? Because you can't say you haven't, it's been 2 years, can't say you haven't developed any skills. I mean, how have you been making money? It's like you have to have a skill, some sort of skill to make, even if it's a fry cook at McDonald's, you have a skill, you know how to, turn the oven on. It's a low paying skill, but it's a skill. Or, if you, are a sales or entrepreneur or something, you develop some sort of skill. So I think that's why, I don't know, I talk so much about expertise and like developing skills more so than, that's the most important thing. I think that's what I'm starting to realize over the last really mainly this year, is the importance of like having a skill, like being an expert at one skill, like something you can rely on, whether that's sales, whether that's whatever, operating, whatever it is, trading in the stock, whatever you want to do, like whatever skill you can develop is like the most important thing I think you can do to really just benefit your life in general for financial freedom, or just, even if you want to use it at your job. Right.
I think it's a skill is basically something that you can leverage into being an income source for you in multiple different ways, just depending on what that skill is. But that makes you marketable in a way that makes you able to never have to worry about money, because somebody's going to value what you're able to do really well.
Because why? It's a reason that, neurosurgeons are paid a lot of money. It's because how many people can operate on a brain and not kill someone?
Right.
It's a skill. It's a very, very, very tough skill to develop that takes decades to develop and hone in on. It's like, why would it be any different for anything? And I just think it's a more introspective way to look at making money in general, because it's really that simple. It's not as complicated, even as we make it sound sometimes, about the business and like all these other things and marketing and like sales and like all the, SOP, all that stuff. If we just talking about straight making money, it just comes down to having one high income producing skill.
That's a good thought, because I think this goes like to when people are, I just think about an example, when people are writing resumes, they always be like, what should I write down for like what I did at the job as an example? Yeah. That's because they don't have enough introspection to really think about what skills you developed and how you, and like really valuing the things that you've done. Because like people may undervalue themselves too much to the point where they like, oh yeah, the past 2 years I really haven't done too much. But in reality, I'm just thinking about both of us. Like you talking about with skills and like what that's developed, like really just taking a step and backtracking. This is the result that we're getting today. But what are the fundamental things that were required to be put in place for us to get to this result?
Yes.
And so like even for us, vehicle management. Like we learn how to, we've developed an entire system for one. So systems development is one. And also vehicle management is a whole nother one. We're actually training other people and telling them about how valuable that skill is. Like we're currently going through a class with a few people and teaching them the value of learning this, developing this skill, because we tell them that there's no end to the number of investors that are out there. Like there's millions of investors, people that are willing to give people money.
Right.
But they're looking for somebody who has a skill set that's capable of handling the money that they give them. So in this case of vehicle management, somebody may have a car. Somebody may have a fleet of cars that they do not want to run by them. They don't want to run out by themselves because they don't have the time or they don't care to do so. And they will give it to another person that is capable of doing it for the sake of making a passive income.
Right.
It's the same thing how real estate was. There are people out there that are investors that have money that want to invest in somebody who knows how to go and buy a deal and make sure it flips for a profit, or they can rent it out for long-term cash flow. They want to find that person who has a skill set in order to do that. And so if you understand that that's part of your skills and your repertoire, you can, like I said, it makes you more marketable. Now you can market that to the people who have money. That can be an investor, that could be an employer, anybody who has money.
That's a bar. And I think that's why it's so important to understand that having money is not important. Having a skill is. Everything's like a cycle. Someone makes money. So let's say someone is a doctor, a surgeon. We use a surgeon example. That surgeon has a skill. They make money. With their money, they know that, hey, this money, I want this money to either make me more money, or I want this money to provide for my lifestyle, or I want this money to, whatever. I just need to put this money to use some way. So money is only transferred between entities and people and things in exchange for like another skill, right? Money is always just being transferred for a skill. And it's just, money is just the medium of exchange for a transfer of skills.
That's true.
like that's essentially what it is. So it's like if I'm like you said, an investor, if I'm someone that has money, I know, or if I'm someone that has money because I have a skill, I develop myself from skill. I know that, hey, I want to leverage this money into someone else's skill. And this is getting super convoluted, but it's like, I know that, hey, because I have money, there's someone out there that may not have money, but they have a skill, and I can, partner with them. I can do things with them that will, benefit both of us. And that's why you don't have to necessarily have money, but if you don't have money, you need to have time. And if you have time, then you need to have a skill, right? Because there's no excuse not to have money, time, or skill. What do you have? It's like, what are you doing? You're literally, that's like, well, I guess you say that's the average person. So if you really think about it. But yeah, I don't know. It's just an interesting conversation. You've been at your job though for like almost a year now, right?
So yes, I'll be coming up on a year next month. Oh, I guess October 1st. October 1st will make it a full year. Now, like I said, I have thought about that a lot because my thoughts have always been, if you were to ever go back to a job, you're probably not going to go back to the same position that you were when you had left the job. Yeah. Even though that was always my default thought. Like I would just go back to that same position. But like we talk about today with the skills you develop, you're marketable in a different aspect now. So you don't have to necessarily, and really you have probably more recent and better skills in the current thing you've been doing as opposed to what you got the degree in. I think that part is like it's like an identity thing. I remember talking to Janilka a while back on, I think episode 102 with the Heart Songs about the identity piece. Because a lot of people, especially when you get a degree, like if you spent so much time to actually obtain a degree in a certain area, and then to say that you're not going to do anything in relation to that anymore, I think that's a hard thing for people to like fathom, especially like in entrepreneurship or like breaking away from the 9-to-5 to entrepreneurship, because the 9-to-5 may have been something that they got their degree in, and then saying I'm going to just dump all this and become a full-time entrepreneur or do something else that's completely different than what I got my degree in. That there's like a level of, I guess, not disconnect, it's the wrong word for it, but it's like a longing to stay with what I worked so hard to get in the first place.
Because that was your identity for so long. Mm-hmm. And even though now what you are and what you are marketable as now can be even more beneficial to your life, it's still not a part of your identity yet. Correct. Because you haven't adapted it as part of so. And so I think with that specific situation, it's kind of like, it's like the skills that you develop just being an entrepreneur, if you really are doing it right and you're doing it, and you're not, you're doing something and you're building something. Like you said, the skills that you develop doing that are a lot more valuable, I think, for yourself in terms of like, making money for yourself than what you learned in school for the most part. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you didn't learn anything in school. Just the only thing school gave you was the paper qualification to say that you can go do something, which you didn't necessarily develop a skill, right? Because I would say 100%.
That's a fact. Man, hold on a second. That's good.
Yeah, I would say 100%. I don't have an engineering skill. Like I never had an engineering. I always told people all the time, I was like, bro, my job as an engineer, it's like I learned most of the stuff on the job. Like literally, I would see a lot of the equations and things that was theory in school at work, but it's like I didn't have to sit there and calculate it.
They expose you to the lingo and the knowledge that you would need.
Yeah, but the practicality of it comes from actually working the job and getting that. And it's the same way. Once you become an entrepreneur, once you start doing entrepreneurship, there is no theory. It's all application and practicality. So it's like I said before, the skills you develop become practical, marketable, real-time skills. So that's a real skill. It's funny because I still be getting like recruiters and stuff that message me all the time because the job market is still hot. And like my resumes and stuff are still like on job boards, I guess. Whenever I was working and looking at different jobs, I would put that. And so it's like they always hit me up and they're like this one hit me up like this week. And
I feel like those are spam, but I guess they do be people that's really reaching out.
No, they're really recruiters. And because they're like, most of the time they'll email me. And this one was talking about, we needed, I was looking at it for the sake of looking at it. And it said that we needed, or you have to have 5 years of, experience doing this. And they just, I guess they they say that, or they think that because my, I guess, resume or my stuff has been in there for X amount of time, that they're like, okay, this might be a qualified candidate. So it's like, just reach out to them. It's like, and then I look at it, it's like 5 years of doing X, Y, and Z, like, project management, but it's all related to like engineering. This is not anything you get from school. Like, this is literally stuff that you only can get from like doing something.
Yes, when they talk about 5 years experience, they're not looking for 5 years of learning about something.
Yeah, it's like they might say degree required.
Yeah, no, I can see they do have that, but they just, at the end of the day, when you go to an employer or when you go to somebody that needs something, they don't care about the knowledge, they care about the competence of you being able to go do it.
Exactly. And that's like, and this is not to make this conversation about what you need to get a job, because that's the last thing. That's the last thing we're trying to talk about here. The premise is, the moral of it is understanding that whatever you're doing, you should be developing a skill. You shouldn't just be doing something for the sake of making money.
Correct.
That's the most important thing I think I learned this year, is that I need to have a skill. Meaning, when I say skill, like this is I really want people to think about the word skill too, because it's like, what actually is a skill? A skill means I'm competent. I can do something. I can rely on myself to do something.
There you go. That's a bar.
Because think about practical example. If I said, I want to be an NBA player. Cool. That's a good aspiration. Totally fine. They got G League tryouts every summer for the local G League team. They actually do. And you can go like,
you searched it before?
No, I didn't search it, because I actually,
getting ready.
Somebody was talking about it. I was like, wow. So anybody off the street can go try out for a G League team. Because there was like some 60-year-old guy that like made a G League team.
Wow.
He was 60 and he was like on a G. I was like, that's crazy. But like, anybody can go like make a G League team. Now, the thing is, it's like, what are they going to be evaluating you on? They're not going to be evaluating on your basketball knowledge.
I got to see your resume.
You going to show them your resume?
Yeah,
you'll be like,
how many years have you been playing? How many years have you been studying basketball?
Yeah,
not playing, but just studying.
Right. That's like, yeah, bro, I've been watching since 2008.
Right. Yeah.
I got 15 years of watching. So it's like, they're not looking to see that. And take someone. Let's go even deeper with it, because it's like someone like Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace. Someone like that is like, if I said, Kobe Bryant, I need you to play this one-on-one game, I'm gonna put my money on you, versus some guy off the street. I mean, it's practical for me to say I'm gonna put my money on Kobe. Why? Because he has a skill, and I'm just really using this as an example because it's like, this is how practical it is. Kobe Bryant can wake up every day and say, hey, I can make money playing basketball because I have this skill. So I say that to say, it's like, it's easy to get on this financial freedom, the whole journey. It's easy to get caught up with like, just making money, not realizing it's like, dude, do you have a skill?
This is serious.
Like, are you like able to rely on yourself to make money every day in any type of market conditions?
Yep. That's what brought it home for me, because having a true skill allows you to know, like, give a certain level of confidence to you. For one, that's the biggest thing. Having a skill, knowing you have the skill, is what instills the ultimate confidence in you to be able to go out and say, I can market this skill and somebody will pay me for it.
Yeah,
like you say with Kobe Bryant as an example. If I know I'm an excellent basketball player, I need to find the person who is willing to pay me in order to play basketball.
Exactly.
And for whatever skill, if I'm a great marketer, I need to find a person who is looking for marketing, because somebody's willing to, because if I have the skill that somebody else doesn't have, they will pay me to do that. It doesn't have to be an employer. Like we said, it's not about getting a job. It's understanding the value that you can bring to somebody.
To the marketplace in general. The marketplace means someone willing to give you money. That could be a stranger. That could be an employer. That can be an investor. Someone willing to give you money, meaning I can wake up every day and there's someone that I can extract $1 from because I have something that is valuable to them. That, at the end of the day, is much more important than just making money for the sake of making money at financial freedom. Because let's think, there's so many business ways, so many business models. Turo's a good example. How many people are just getting on Turo, putting their car on there, trying to make money, trying to get financial freedom just from doing that? just going to put a bunch of cars on Turo and hopefully I'm going to get finance. Are you really developing a skill doing that? Now, what you're doing with it is obviously building a rental car business. If you're building a business, there's a lot of components that go into that obviously you have to have skills to be able to put a business together. But if you're talking about just putting your cars on a platform and just leaving it alone, you're not developing a marketable skill. That's a skill where someone will pay you, a skill where if you lost everything, because the worst thing that happen is you do something for so long, something happens that's out of your control, it's all gone, and you're still you can't even get back to where you were because you didn't develop a skill. You know how much that would suck. Like that's scary. That's a scary thought to think about. Like, because I'm telling you on this, most people are just so caught up on financial freedom just for the sake of not wanting to work and stuff like that. Not understanding it's like, yo, you can lose your business, you can lose all that at any point, and if you don't have a skill, what are you gonna do?
Right.
So that's been my biggest thing, for this year.
No, because I think about that a lot, especially with platforms like Turo and with platforms like not Hire Car, but Airbnb, I was about to say, because those platforms are like your marketers. And so if you don't develop like a marketing skill or develop a way to be able to get your business out there still, you essentially go from 100% marketing to zero.
Yep.
And so that's
why they
were
marketing for you.
Right. And so just understanding like that's a good example. People that get on Turo, they are hiring Turo to be their marketer indirectly.
That's why they get a cut.
That's why they're getting their cut, because they are because you are actually Turo's customer.
Yeah.
And Turo says, I have a skill of marketing. Would you like to work with me? I can market your cars for you.
Yeah.
And so that's really having a self-awareness to say, or self-awareness and social awareness to see what are you paying somebody else to do for you? Because a lot of people be like, bro, Turo taking too much money. Well, what are they doing for you that you're not doing for yourself? Because that's why they're taking the money, because they have a skill set that you are paying for.
Yeah.
They're marketing your cars for you. At the same time, they're also providing insurance for you. So you better develop a skill of knowing how to get the right insurance for yourself, and also driver vetting. They're paying out claims, all these things. This goes into full-on business development. But that marketing piece is huge though, because if you don't know how to get some more clients, your business is going to suffer. Inevitably. So you have to really understand that you're paying them for the skill that they have that you haven't developed for yourself.
And that's why you have to be very careful in this time of like entrepreneurship wave and all that, because it's so easy to get caught up, like I said, in making the money that you don't realize you're not actually doing anything. Mm-hmm. Turo, Airbnb, all those kinds of platforms like that you're not developing the true business skill that you need to be able to make money independently.
That's true.
Without them. That's the most, you should be able to, at the end of the day, if you truly want to build something valuable and make money and be able to rely on your own income, you should be able to build something that every day, regardless of when you wake up, you're able to make some money. And so when you think about like something like real estate investing, that's a skill. To develop that, you have to learn how to find houses, how to find quality deals. You have to learn how to vet screen tenants. You have to learn how to manage contractors. You have to learn how to rehab a property. You have to learn all these different things that go into putting a successful deal together. Because at the end of the day, you're not paying anyone to do anything, right? Mm-hmm. Even if you want to market for your own deals, if you want to do wholesaling, that's a skill. All that is a skill that you're developing. And so that's what I really just want to encourage everyone to really, really think about on this journey to financial freedom. What skill are you honing in on? What skill are you developing? What are you becoming so valuable in that you become irreplaceable, right? Mm-hmm. Like nobody can do what you can do, or very few people can do what you do. Regardless of whatever, you can do whatever it is. Just make sure that whatever it is, if you want to do Turo, understand what's going on. If you want to do Airbnb, understand what's going on. If you want to do real estate, understand. If you want to trade in the stock market, understand the skill you're developing while you're doing that. Mm-hmm. If you, regardless of whatever you're doing, just truly focus on that process over the money. Mm-hmm. It's especially early on. Focus on developing that for 5 years. Just focus on that. Don't even worry about the money. 5 years, just focus on it. That's how you become an expert at something.
Yeah, and I think over time, like while you're doing it, you're going to develop that skill. But I think it's about having the intentionality behind it, like really understanding that there is a skill that's being developed. And once you really understand it, now you can be intentional about making sure that it's developing over time, because now you know that if everything was to go away, there's nothing that can stop you from making money.
Yeah.
Because nobody can take away your knowledge and your skill set that you developed. And like they can take away money, they can take away phones, they can take away contacts, resources. But if you have a skill, they can never take that away from you.
Yeah.
And so now your only objective from there is finding somebody who is looking for that skill, who needs that one.
That's why the Undercover Billionaire show was such a good show.
Yes, I'm thinking of it more and more now.
Yeah, because for those that don't know, the concept was 3 billionaires or 3 very wealthy people. They had to essentially get an alias and have no access to none of their contacts, none of their money or anything. Go to a remote town somewhere in the country, and they had to build a $1 million business in 90 days. Grant Cardone built a $5.5 million business in under 90 days. Right. Why? Because he has a skill. He knows how to market.
Yep.
That was the number one skill that you could see that was very apparent on that show. Mm-hmm. He was a great marketer among many things, but you could see he built a marketing business. Correct. So it was like, you could see like that skill was very apparent, right? Obviously the other lady, Elaine, the white lady, she was great, like managing at projects. Yep. That was a skill she had. Like she turned that little place into like a whole store.
And Shepherd's Inn.
Yeah. And then the other lady, what was her name?
Monique.
Yeah, Monique. She built a business about the juice.
Yeah, the healthy juice.
Yeah, the healthy juice business. Like that. She had a skill to be able to do that too. Mm-hmm. And so that whole thing is just like, to be able to do something like that, it took, obviously those were like older people. They were like in their 50s. So it's like, those are skills that were developed over time, but it's something that it takes time to develop that kind of stuff. Like it just takes time.
And I think about both Elaine and Grant. I definitely think about them a lot, because in the very beginning, you could kind of see how their thought process was going. Elaine kept on talking about, I'm looking for real estate. I'm looking for some type of real, because I know I'm great at designing. Yeah. She always said, I'm a great designer. That's my skill. Like that's one of her gifts that she's developed, is that she can see something as it currently is, and then also to give a vision for where it can go. Right. And so now she can share that vision, because that's her skill set, is designing and being able to create, especially so she uses that designing and creativity in the real estate sense. Yeah. Combine those two together for her 2 skill sets. Grant, like you said, great marketer. So even in the very beginning, I think he was going to guy named, I think his name was Matt.
Matt Smith.
Yep, Matt Smith. There you go. Shout out Matt. Hopefully you watching.
Snap Fitness.
Snap Fitness. But he was going to him and saying, "Hey, I can market. Like if you need more sales for mattresses, I'm out there." Like, and he broke it down to the fundamentals, saying we ain't looking at social media. We're not trying to go run Facebook ads. He went out there and said, "Let's get a sign out. We're actually marketing, bringing people in right now."
And he did.
And that's like, he said, I got that skill. Yep. Like, and whatever it takes, like, and knowing that nothing, like I said, you can't take everything away. If you don't have access to social media, if you don't have access to being able to market online, he can still do grassroots marketing and still be successful with it.
And that's why it's never an accident when people become wealthy.
That's a fact.
Like, it's not, very rarely, unless you hit the lottery, and even then you're not wealthy, you got lucky. But to become truly wealthy and know I can rely on this, like, regardless, I lose it all and I can make it back. It's not an accident that I got here. Mm-hmm. It's because I spent time developing skills.
Yep.
That's the root of it. And there's really nothing more to this than that simple fact.
And the reason I love this conversation, like, I'm going to go back and just repeat it again. When you develop a skill and have the awareness that you have that skill,
yes, that
instills the ultimate confidence in you to understand that there's nothing that can take me away from being able to have a financially stable lifestyle.
That's such a huge point, because when you truly understand that you have the skill and you've developed it and you possessed it, you carry it out with confidence, and you can continue to know and rely on yourself, and you don't fear anything, because it's like, regardless of what's happening, I'm gonna be all right, because I know I can rely on this. Yeah. So yeah, man, that was a very good conversation. Honestly, I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. We didn't even have a topic. It was just, I was hoping we came up with something. So,
hey, it pops up out of nowhere. I'm glad I'm glad for both brains coming together to come up with something.
Yeah. So what we'll do is transition to the last segment of the show, which will be Ask the Monopolizers.
How can I be successful? How can I follow the path that someone else has laid for me to be successful?
Ask the Monopolizers.
Shout out Mr. Bouncy, first of all, because my dude be coming, he be always be answering questions. So he had the question for today. How do I conquer the fear of losing investors' money even after I have done my numbers?
You can go first.
So I think this is really ties into what we just finished talking about too, in regards to just developing a skill set. Because a fear comes from first of all, fear always comes in when you're doing something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone. And so, like, I love something that Grant Cardone has said a while back. I love this quote. He says, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but it's the presence of fear, but doing it anyways." That's what courage is. So in these instances, when you're jumping out of your comfort zone, it takes courage to do that. And so you're going to be scared. Like when we're about to go get like 100 more cars in our fleet, there's fear there. It's like, bro, I don't know what that's going to look like. And because in reality, you've never done it before. So it's something that you're going to be a little bit more you're going to have a little more hesitancy to do. Coming to the podcast, when we first started episodes, I'm like, man, I hope I don't stutter. Like there's fear behind that. The longer you do something, the easier it gets over time, though. So if you're talking to investors right now, you may be in a position where you haven't done a lot of deals, so you have a little bit more concern. The best thing to overcome that fear is by doing it more. So because now it makes it easier to not fear the potential consequences. And I think also by being upfront with your investors too is another good thing, as far as letting them know the risk that is involved with making any type of deal, because investors, they usually understand that there's risk involved to every investment. There's going to be a positive side and there's a downside. So being upfront about that, and really the more experience you get personally, the more you're able to leverage and walk in with confidence to investors and say, hey, I've done X amount of deals myself already. And so now we're just looking for another opportunity. We have another opportunity that came up and we'd like for you to be a part of that. So that's a good way to approach an investor and really give yourself more confidence, knowing that you've backed it up with your own personal history and track record.
I think what you made a great point too. And I just want to add to that, because fear at its core, understand like where does that come from? That comes from uncertainty. Mm-hmm. Like, because you got to think, if there was like a magic fairy that came and told you, hey, Mr. Bouncy, they're not going to say that to you. That's your name, but like, hey, Mr. Bouncy, I promise you're not going to lose this person's money. You're going to, take their money. You're going to be able to, multiply it. They're going to be happy. You're going to make a lot of money. You wouldn't be fearful if there was a magic fairy that told you that would happen. If you knew the outcome, ultimately, if you knew what the outcome would be, you would not be fearful, right? Because why? You have certainty there. It's nothing to be afraid of. Mm-hmm. If I know there's not a boogeyman under my bed, I'm not going to be afraid, right? So the reason I say that is just understand it as like, you have to understand two things. Well, one thing importantly is that there is a certain amount of risk going into it. There's no way you can ever have full certainty. Yep. So understand that there is going to be fear, like Marlon said. It's like you're never going to have full certainty. So you're always going to have some sort of fear. The only way you can eliminate that or limit it as much as possible is by developing your competence. And I would say the biggest thing, like, because people always ask when we started our real estate journey, is like, were you scared to buy your first property or anything like that? And it was like, no, I didn't even have a second thought. Like, it was never something, because it was like I studied it for 6 months.
Yep. The more confidence you have, the more confidence you have as well.
Yeah, bro. Like, think about, because I always hear people, and this was always the craziest thing to me, because I would always hear people say like, man, yeah, I'm getting ready to buy my first house. I'm so nervous. It's like all that. And I was always like, why? Like, why are you so nervous? And I thought about it, I was like, oh, because people don't study real estate before buying a house.
I feel like I'm jumping off a ledge.
Yeah, you're just buying something because it's like, this is what you're supposed to do. You weren't buying it with the intent of like, this is an investment or a skill that I'm trying to develop. You were just buying it for the sake of like, this is what I do. So it's like, yeah, I would be probably having some uncertainty too, because you don't know, oh, am I buying a bad property in a bad area? Or like, is this property gonna, all these different things. But when you have that competence and you've studied something for a certain amount of time, and it's not to say that studying is the way to do it. I just understand what works for me. Right. Because I know that if I study, if I have a certain level of knowledge on a subject, I'm not going to be fearful. I'm going to go in, expect the best thing or I'm going to expect something to happen. But I know, like, hey, whatever happened. I gave myself the best odds, though, because I didn't come in blind. I came in with knowledge, with information. So the biggest thing I would say is just really make sure that you focused on, number one, understanding whatever it is that you're, investing in with these people's money, if it's real estate or whatever business it is, having an understanding of that business, having an understanding of that will eliminate or limit a lot of that fear.
Yes, I think the competence is very important. I think also the experience piece. So people do learn differently, and people gain confidence differently. Some people gain confidence from just learning, and that's enough. Like in your case, if you become competent in what you know, that gives you the confidence to go out and execute. Yeah. Some people just need to get the experience. I think about, like, in terms of riding a bike. People will gain confidence of riding a bike after they have ridden it for fallen a couple of times and have gotten the experience. So now you are confident to get on a bike and just ride without being fearful that you're going to fall, but not from studying how to ride a bike, but just actually going out and doing it. So you have to know what gives you that confidence. And once you know that, then continue to build upon that, or continue to work on that piece. Like, keep on getting experienced until you are confident to go into investors and saying, "Hey, I'm confident. I'm not going to lose your money. I'm not going to do my best not lose your money, because there's no guarantee, like we said. Yeah. But you can walk in with confidence, knowing that you can make a deal happen."
I love it. So, that was a great question, though. I really like that question.
I did too.
That was a good question. Much better than the last time.
Shout out to you, Mr. Bouncy, though, for sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's all we got. If you have any questions, then just message us on Instagram at Money Monopolizers, and we'll try to get your question answered on the show. So, but yeah, I think that's all we got really for this episode.
Yes,
so,
sir.
That is it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers podcast. New episodes will be released every Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, we'd appreciate if you rated it 5 stars and left us a review on Apple Podcasts. I was actually just thinking, I'll talk about it next episode. You can also find out more info about us on IG at Money Monopolizers. We post informative content on there that'll keep you engaged. So be sure to check that out and share those posts. But until then, we are out of here.
You've been listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take